Hey, what's up everyone? Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be going over the biggest mistakes I see when training youth quarterbacks, and we're going to start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab.
Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become.
All right, so as I've been doing this more and more, I've had more people reach out to me who have, quarterbacks that are younger in their age, and I understand it just because they want to really start to train with their kids before they start to, get bad habits within their throwing. So, a lot of times when quarterbacks are, 7, 8 years old, you can make sure that they just ingrain some of the things that are correct when it comes to throwing. And so I do want to go over some of the things that I see when working with these quarterbacks that are mistakes that, honestly, I think they're made with the best intention in mind. But most likely you're actually making these mistakes, and it's really having a negative impact on the development of the quarterback. And so the first thing and the biggest thing here is just trying to progress the size of the ball too early, right? So some people think that oh yeah, they should go up in the size of the football because they're going to be throwing a bigger football when they're whatever age, and that is true. You are going to end up having to use a bigger football, but when you do that, you end up actually putting the quarterback in a bad position, because now if his hand isn't growing enough, he will end up having to suffer with his mechanics because he's holding a ball that is bigger than what he should be holding, and is still trying to go through a proper wrist flick, or get the wrist in a good position, or grip even the ball correctly. And so what I would say and what I recommend for people is try not to go up in the size of the ball. Try to stay lower with the size of the football for as long as you can. Even for me personally, I like throwing with those smaller footballs with the younger quarterbacks, because it helps me with my wrist flick and even using a smaller ball. So I'll even tell quarterbacks that are in those younger ages, those youth ages, use the smaller football, and when you have to go into games or practices or things like that, then you could use the bigger football, or whatever size he's currently playing with. But for as long as you can, keep the ball small, so then you can really work on the wrist position and having a great wrist flick. That's the biggest thing that I would say. Second thing that I would say is try not to get too caught up in throwing a lot of passes, timing routes, deep passes when the athlete is younger. Work more on drills. I'm big on doing the wrist flick, right? Making sure that the wrist gets on top as we're throwing the football. We don't want to get too stuck in doing drills that'll make it so now your wrist ends up getting in not a good position, right? So this is not where we want to be. We want to have the wrist in more of a C. I've done a lot of videos that talk about this, and you really don't want to be in this position here when you're releasing the football. And a lot of times you could work on being able to improve within this pretty quickly, when you really start to get a good understanding of what that wrist should look like. This is a better position right here. And so, make sure you're putting a big priority on drills, right? Getting the lower body involved, pushing off the back leg, being stable within that front leg, getting that wrist on top as you're flicking the wrist and coming through the throw, and really trying to get the ball out of the hand fast, right? So the second mistake would be putting more of a focus on throwing routes and timing and stuff like that, and not as big of a focus on the drills and working on the correct mechanics. So, that ends up really having a negative impact, especially when it comes to, throwing the deep ball. I see a lot of things going on within the spine, and you also put a lot of stress on the arm when the mechanics are not correct. And so just make sure that you're being smart with how you're doing that. Quarterback University is where committed quarterbacks come to take their game to the next level. Improve your throwing power, velocity, accuracy, and get the ball out of your hands faster. Not only are there videos to improve your mechanics, but there's also workout tutorials and also drills to help you improve as well. We want to help you get noticed, which is why we also included a recruiting services section. We'll have quizzes that you'll be able to take to be able to make sure that you actually get the information and are able to repeat it back. In case you have any shoulder, back, wrist, or elbow soreness, there is a section to address that as well. Click the link here in order to get started. Thanks for watching. Another big thing that I see that I think is a common mistake is really just not training the upper body, right? There's been a lot of evidence recently that has come out that has talked about how weightlifting, resistance training, strength training is going to help promote growth for younger quarterbacks, right? There's a lot of people that think, oh man, if I, have my kid train at too early of an age, or get him, strength training too early, it's going to make it so his growth is stunted. And the person that ended up making that study, this was like 20 or 30 years ago, maybe even more, really didn't have very much scientific data that really backed what he was claiming if you go and you research more about it, and it ended up blowing up. The information blew up, and now that has just been repeatedly told over and over again, and it's really not true. Right now, not that you want to start, throwing hundreds of pounds on, young kids and trying to get them to like squat or deadlift or things like that, but 2.5s, 5-pound weights, 10-pound weights, that's going to promote growth within a young quarterback. That's not going to stunt the growth. And so start doing strength training, core training, balance training, things like that at a younger age, because that will help in creating that stability that they're going to need when going into high performance training. And so those are really, I think, the three biggest things I see. I think the biggest thing is going to be the ball size, right? Making sure that you're have the correct ball size, or even work with a smaller ball to make sure that they get the wrist flick. Oh, actually, number 4, I would just say be patient, right? I work with a lot of different quarterbacks, a lot of different dads that are coaching, or coaches that are coaching younger kids, and the big thing with that is just overall patience, right? When you're working with them, they're trying, sometimes they get distracted. They don't always do it the right way. I always tell guys where it's like, if you can get a little bit better at this within the next 2 months or 3 months, that's going to be a huge improvement when we talk about a 2 to 3 year development. So if you're willing to commit to actually seeing development and growth, then you want to be able to see that over a long period of time. Not that we want to get results that are take a long time to be able to get, but sometimes you really have to be patient in the development within that individual session to make it so the quarterback stays engaged. Because what you don't want to have happen is there not be a love for playing quarterback, for the game of football, or for trying to be better at a particular skill or particular sport. And I see that a lot. I see the love kind of get sucked out of the kid because there's just too much pressure, and the standards are get too high too soon, right? At the end of the day, when they're 8, they're just trying to have fun, right? And while we do want to be on the same track of make sure they're doing it correctly, a lot of them are doing the best that they can. And so just trying to take that for what it is, right? I'm not trying to say this is how to parent a kid, or this is what you have to do in order to coach. I'm just saying, there's some people that I think might get too caught up in how well a quarterback's doing at 8 and not as focused at what they're going to be like when they get to 16, 18, 20 years old. So just a little bit different thought process, I think, is always good to think about long-term stuff. So if you like the information, go ahead and click that thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, you can leave those down below. We do have a lot of programs. We do have breakdowns. We do have resources for you as a parent or as a coach to be able to help in improving your quarterback overall. Yeah, I could do a lot of stuff to be able to help you, individually, or you could just get like a breakdown, and then you'll be able to really have a better understanding of how to help out your son, or whatever the relationship is to the quarterback that you're looking to get better. So really try to understand that this could be something that is very, very symbiotic. You don't have to have a quarterback coach who's working with the kid all the time. You could just get some feedback every once in a while and really make a lot of big results, again, over a period of time. That to me has been my big goal, right? If you really look at for me, advertising or business, or overall growth in speed and weight, it all is going to take time. I don't want to see huge improvement within a week. I used to think that when I was younger, but now I know that it's like this is something that's going to grow. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better, and really just building the habits of being consistent with doing it will make it so now I can control my results a lot more in comparison to just thinking, oh, I'm going to get a lot out of this particular session, and put a lot of focus on and pressure on the kid to be able to perform within an hour and a half, right? So, I really try to build a relationship with the athletes to make sure that you're able to consistently improve, and that's what I do within the YouTube channel as well as within the program. So check those out in the description down below. As always, thanks for watching.